Why, hello everyone. How are you? It's so good to see all of you. I was just listening to one of my favorite songs from the Nutcracker. Do you know what the Nutcracker is? Oh, well, it's a beautiful ballet filled with graceful dancing and splendid costumes. Oh, it's one of my favorite things to watch at Christmas time. You know, it actually reminds me of a story about a little mouse that does ballet. Her name is Angelina. Do you know the story of Angelina? Oh, well, I have such a tale to tell you, and it's a lovely book written by Katharine Holabird called Angelina's Christmas. Shall we see what her Christmas is like? Christmas was coming, and everyone at Angelina's school was working hard to prepare for the Christmas show. Angelina and the other children stayed after their lessons to rehearse and help decorate the hall. When Angelina left school, it was already dark outside. Large snowflakes were falling, and Angelina was excited that she had danced all along the pavement. Oh my, look at all those lovely decorations. They're working very hard for this Christmas show. The cottages in the village looked warm and welcoming, with holly wreaths on the doors and Christmas lights shining in all the windows. But the very last cottage was cold and dark. Angelina peeped in the window and saw an old man huddled by a tiny fire. Oh my! His house is the only one without any Christmas decorations. I wonder what's wrong. Angelina ran the rest of the way home and found her mother and little cousin Henry in the kitchen. She asked her mother about the man who lived all alone in the cottage. "Oh, that's Mr. Bell," her mother replied. "He used to be the village postman, but he's too old to work now." Oh dear. Angelina decided that she wanted to make a Christmas surprise for Mr. Bell, and so Mrs. Mouseling gave her some dough to make cookies shaped like stars, bells, and trees. Oh my, what a lovely idea. Many people love cookies. I know one man who loves cookies and loves all the cookies you set out for him when he makes his deliveries. Henry had a piece of dough too, and he made a nice big Santa Claus cookie. "Look," he said proudly, "I'm going to see Santa Claus tonight and give him this cookie myself." "Santa Claus only comes very late at night after everyone has gone to bed," Angelina explained. "Why don't you leave your special cookie out on a plate for him?" "Well, yes, that's what most of you do, isn't it? You leave out a plate of cookies and maybe some milk for Santa?" Oh. Henry started to cry. "No!" he shouted. "I want to see Santa Claus." "Don't be such a crybaby, Henry," Angelina scolded, but Henry wouldn't stop crying. Oh dear, that little Henry. The next afternoon, Angelina and her mother packed a basket with the cookies, mince pies, and fruit for Mr. Bell. Oh, that's a lovely basket. "Don't you want to help Angelina take the presents to Mr. Bell?" asked Mrs. Mouseling, but Henry only shook his head. Oh dear, he does look very sad, does he not? Then Angelina and her father went out to find a Christmas tree for Mr. Bell. Henry followed Angelina and Mr. Mouseling all the way to Mr. Bell's cottage, but he still wouldn't speak to them. Oh dear. The old postman was amazed and delighted to see his visitors. He invited Angelina and her father inside, and then he noticed Henry standing alone in the snow. "Come in, my friend," said Mr. Bell with a smile, and he picked up Henry and brought him near the fire. Mr. Bell's eyes were bright and twinkling. "Wait here a moment," he said, and disappeared up the stairs. Then he came down looking just like Santa Claus! Oh my, look at the red suit and the beard and everything. He does look just like Santa Claus. This is the red costume I wore once when Santa Claus needed someone to take his place at the village Christmas party, said Mr. Bell with a chuckle, and he sat down with Henry on his knee. While Mr. Mouseling made tea and Angelina decorated the tree, Henry listened to Mr. Bell's stories. Oh, how lovely. I am sure that Mr. Bell very much appreciated this visit. I used to go out on my bicycle no matter what the weather was like, to deliver presents to all the children in the countryside. One year, there was a terrible snowstorm, and all the roads were covered with snow. I had to deliver the toys on a sled, and if I hadn't glimpsed the village lights blinking in the distance, I would have been lost out in the storm. Henry listened with wide eyes. Oh my, it is true. Our mailman today will deliver the letters and packages no matter what the weather is outside. That is their job. When it was time to go, Henry reached into his pocket. I made this for someone special, he said, and I'd like to give it to you. Oh, he gave him his special Santa Claus cookie. Oh, how lovely. Out of his pocket, he took his big Santa Claus cookie and gave it to Mr. Bell. This is the best Christmas surprise I've had for many years, said Mr. Bell, thanking Henry and Angelina for their presents. Angelina said she wished Mr. Bell would come to her school to show the school show in his Santa Claus costume. That would be a pleasure, he said, smiling. Oh, look at the Christmas show. There's beautiful and graceful dancing and costumes, just like the Nutcracker. Mr. Bell kept his promise. He came to the Christmas show in his red costume and watched Angelina and her friends dressed as sugar plum fairies dancing. The Nutcracker! Oh, lovely. Oh, and there is Mr. Bell, dressed as Santa Claus. Oh, my. Later, all the children gathered round Mr. Bell, and Henry felt proud as Mr. Bell handed out the Christmas presents and entertained everyone with stories about his adventure as a postman. Mr. Bell was never lonely at Christmas again, because every year he was invited to come to Angelina's school show dressed as Santa Claus. Oh, what a lovely ending. Oh my, there is Henry wearing Mr. Bell's Santa beard. He does look silly, but what a nice thing Mr. Bell did, and a nice thing Henry did for Mr. Bell. And he felt included. Oh, I just loved that story. Perhaps we should sing a song. Maybe about Santa Claus coming to town. Would you like that? Okay, let's hit it. Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane. Vixen and Blitzen, all his reindeer pulling on the reins. Bells are ringing, children singing, all is merry and bright. So jump in bed and cover your head, 'cause Santa Claus comes tonight. Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane. He's got a bag that's filled with toys for boys and girls again. Hear those sleigh bells jingle, jangle, what a beautiful sight. So hang your stockings and say your prayers, 'cause Santa Claus comes tonight. Oh, thank you all for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Merry Christmas, everyone.